Well, hi, good afternoon, everybody.
And hello from London. Welcome to Together Unlocked. There's lots of little hands going there for anybody who can't see us properly. Apologies for starting a few minutes late, but this is Together Unlocked, brought to you by Together 2012, East London based Paralympic Disability Arts Legacy Organisation. We also have, in that well known part of East London, Birmingham, Robin and Josh Surgener. So I'm going to hand over to them to do some proper introductions, including a bit of audio description of what they're wearing, and then we'll come back to London and do some fuller introductions here.
Okay, well, afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Monday. So I'm Robin Surgener. I am the business development director. I'm going to get one of my cards out one of these days. Some title.
So you can remember your own job. Is that?
Yes, and sorry, and I'm up here in Birmingham. And for those of you who aren't able to see me, or if even those of you who can are wondering what on earth I look like, I am embracing home working and the lack of access to hairdressing. I'm quite enjoying it, actually. I'm going through all different stages I went through as a sort of adolescent through to my mid-20s. And in about 5 years' time, I'll be back to a flat top. But for the moment, I'm going long and dishevelled.
When are you dyeing it purple again? If you're really going through the...
I don't want to outdo Drew, so I'll stick with the plain colours. Oh, and I'm wearing a black T-shirt which is logoed for Angry Fish, which is my artistic name.
And do you want to tell us a bit more about why you're called Angry Fish, Mr. Parry?
Oh, crikey. Well, it was going back 20 odd years, and I was looking for a name to play under as a musician. And I came up with, all the usual things, the Dead Dog Reverie and various other, ridiculous things. And of course, Angry Fish not being ridiculous at all. And I think it's a combination of the fact that I used to be a competitive swimmer, and with a name like Surgener, I've been called Sturgeon more times than I care to remember. So I guess putting those together and my political bent have made me ever so slightly angry. So together they became Angry Fish.
That's so sweet because, of course, I'm Jew Gosling, so I got an awful lot of that bird stuff at school. In fact, I'm also known as Jew90, which is one of those names that sort of started on the internet and crossed over. But I think that was actually chosen for me back in about 1994 when I was doing quite a lot of digital video stuff and website stuff, but it was still very new. And a friend of mine looked at me and laughed and said, "Oh, look, it's Joe90." And then
Yeah.
Jew90, and it stuck. And she sadly passed away a few years ago, so I've stuck to that name. But there are times when you think this is a little bit ridiculous when you're nearly 58. Anyway, Josh, the young trendy one, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm Josh Surgener. I'm Robin's always sarcastic and sometimes supportive son. As you may have guessed if you've watched a couple of the episodes of the show. I'm wearing a blue long sleeve shirt that has a dog surfing on the front of it, and then Long Beach on the back. That was a present from some friends that live in New York.
Well, that sounds really cool. I mean, I've got some short but growing hennaed red hair, black rimmed glasses, and a green and white striped t-shirt that's actually got a little logo from Keith Haring, who was a New York based artist who died of AIDS. I don't think I got that in New York, actually, although I have visited his pop shop in New York many, many moons ago. I think I probably got that from a supermarket. And last but by no means least, the boss of us all, our chair and fellow artist, Julie Newman. So let me pass you over to Julie.
Hi, from East London, indeed. I was thinking about Mondays and Happy Monday, and I thought, oh, that's a good name for a band.
Never heard of it. It never
Because
worked.
I don't think it's taken. You might be all right.
And the other thought that randomly crept through my mind when you were talking about your hairstyle, Robin, is I want to see the bunches on each side. I'm looking forward to that at some point.
Yeah, it's not quite there yet because I had to have it cut for we were going out to a sports awards because Emily had been nominated for the Sutton Coldfield Sports Awards for last year,
Excellent.
and I'd had to have it cut, and so the back is now not it's trying to catch up with the front, but not doing a very good job. So my bunches will be about that big at the moment.
I'm surprised Emily hasn't had a go at you already with the little toggly things. But
Don't worry, she's always having a go at me. It's fine.
I think that's the nature of father-daughter relationship. I have a name as well, a little nickname that I picked up about 30 years ago, actually possibly longer than that. It was when I was very active in the feminist movement, and everybody was sort of looking for new names to avoid the patriarchal surname thing. And so everybody's going around naming themselves. For example, I'd be Julie Rita Child, but I really couldn't cope with that. So I decided that I wanted to be a mammoth. And there's still people who know me as Mammoth because I thought, well, it's hairy, ginger haired, and a little bit overweight and a little bit extinct. So I thought that's my other name. And my description of what I'm wearing, I'm silver and gold haired. I have dark rimmed glasses, and I'm currently wearing a ubiquitous, non-named dark blue polo shirt.
Thank you, Judy. And as I said at the start, this is brought to you by Together 2012. We're an artist led organisation based in East London. And usually we run an outreach programme every weekday morning that's free to any disabled person and whoever they want to bring with them. We cover a whole variety of art forms. Tuesday would usually be craft based, Wednesdays are poetry club. Thursday, we have youth specific sessions. Friday, we have drawing and painting. And on a Monday, we do different things each Monday. So, Monday, our art form focus is very much either film, dance, or theatre. And we have a filmmaking club every month, which Julie runs. And we also have a dance club every month, which I run, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about that later. Obviously, at the moment, those programs are closed, but we do have a very full Join In From Home program based on our website, which is together2012.org.uk. And one of the reasons we're here today is to promote that, tell you a little bit more about it, make it a bit easier to access, because although we try and do quite a lot of photos and there are also BSL videos, there's also a fair bit of words in there. We also, as an organisation, run a festival programme for a month in Disability History Month where we have performances, exhibitions, screenings, workshops, street art, carnival art, and we do some of those things year round. So this program is also showcasing some of our locally based artists that we work with and some of our nationally based artists. Robin, tell us a little bit more about what you and Josh are doing in the program as we're starting another week. And in fact, this is our 5th week of live streaming. What a milestone! I can't believe it. People say that the sort of sense of time is really getting lost at the moment, and I think that's possibly true.
Well, I mean, what are we doing? So, I'm liking myself as a guru. Actually, I believe. I think that's what I should be seen as a guru for all those people
Self-proclaimed,
struggling to find themselves things to do, and someone to laugh at. And I can provide both of those opportunities for people through talking about poetry, music, idiocy we get up to in the garden at weekends. I mean, and on a more serious note, I mean, I am an artist, as well as a kind of business development person for Together, and really what we're doing is bringing our experiences, or I'm bringing my experiences, broad experiences of both working as an artist, but working as a development officer, working in community capacity building, to try to bring some of those experiences to bear for other people to kind of utilize. I mean, what we really want is lots more people coming back to us, whether it's while we're live or with emails and saying, well, how do you do this? How did you do that? You know, don't be afraid to ask us questions. If we don't want to answer them, we won't.
I think that's really helpful. And of course, sending us their artwork.
Absolutely.
I'm delighted to say that we've got a couple of videos coming up. One of them is from Ellen Goody, who's a locally based actor, and she's created a little song, which I hope I'm going to be able to find. Bear with us on the computer. But Eleanor has written a song that she's just sung to camera and asked somebody to video. So let's just see what's popping up there. Yes, this is Ellen.
When I close my eyes, I dream about all the good stuff in my life that's happened to me in the past. I remember running around in every story of my life. I remember when I first came friends with Hannah and Sarah. I remember Sarah's favourite word, computer. I remember I was 18 with Jan, playing with her dog, drinking rum hunt. I remember when I closed my eyes, I dream about all the good stuff, never the bad things. When I close my eyes, I dream about all the things of me when I was younger. When I close my eyes, all I can dream of is when I was younger.
And thank you for that. I'm not quite sure why we can't be seen in stream at the moment, but let me just get up the next video, which is from Steraplergia. Can I ask you, in Birmingham, in London, I have a blank screen in front of me.
Yeah, we do. We can hear you fine now, but we have a whiteout.
Bear with us, audience. I'm just going to try switching us off and switching us on again. Oh, and that's not working either.
Well, in the meantime,
We're
we'll,
doing a little bit of a radio program at the moment.
yeah.
But I think we can cope with that until the internet comes back. We hope one of these things will happen. Tell us how your weekend did go, Robin.
Well, it was actually we had a pretty chilled weekend actually. I mean, I'm always up first. I'm not very good at not getting up. Well, no, actually that's not true. I'm just not very good at staying in bed. For reasons that many of us know, you know, sometimes lying flat isn't always comfy. But anyway, so we started Saturday actually properly started it by doing a land training session with the swim club, which went extremely well, which was great. We're getting more more children joining us every day, or every session, I should say, which is fab. Then Saturday afternoon, we went outside. We did some gardening, and then Emily and I did some land training, because obviously when Josh and I are delivering the land training, we're not doing it.
Little swimming,
But then Josh gets to co-coach twice by putting Emily and I through our paces, which is really good. And of course, with the weather being as nice as it is at the moment, being able to do it outside, and kind of push around the garden and take everything in at the same time is fab. We watched, and yes, we engaged in some intellectual television, and we watched Detective Pikachu. Now, for those of you,
I don't know. Sorry to interrupt, Robin.
no,
Managed to get a little bit of visuals at this end, so I'm just asking you, Josh, can you now see Stera's video at your end?
We can see it on our stream. I will tell you if it then pops up on the live stream
because it's about a 30-second delay
when it catches up.
Yes, this
yes,
live casting, wonderful. What I'm seeing on one of my screens is the internet signal, and the internet signal, which is not my fibre signal, because fortunately we live very near Docklands, so that's nice and fast. But I think the internet is having some problems at the moment. But I'm very much hoping that we will be back able to see each other once we've seen this. So this is Stera telling us about an art activity that she did over the weekend.
Hi, I'm Stera, and I made a painting of my hands. I made it out of all these things: salt, flour, and water. It's really good.
Wonderful. So for anybody who can't see us, we're back to a blank screen.
Oh no!
Oh, success!
Hello, people in Birmingham.
Hello.
Sorry, I wasn't able to audio describe that video while it was happening for technical reasons, but Stera, who's a young artist who uses sign to speak, is in her, I believe, late 20s, and she was signing and being interpreted by Hannah. She was sitting down all the time she was signing on the sofa in her flat. But then when the music started, we had a series of photographs. And what they seem to have done is created almost like a bake, almost like made clay out of salt and flour and water. And Stera's pressed her hands into that. I think they've sort of almost rolled it out, haven't they, Julie, like pastry? But then she's put her hands into it and they've cooked it in the oven to set it solid. And then she's just used ordinary paint and PVA glue and glitter. So she's filled the hand shapes with glue and put glitter in them, and painted around the outside, and also put things like lockdown anniversary on it. So, I mean, that's not one of our activities, but I must get to the details from Hannah, and we'll add that up onto the family activities section of the website. I thought that looked fabulous.
I do. They're so cool.
And we talked on Friday the fact that you can actually make glue from flour and water and salt. So you don't actually have to have any glue for those of you who've run out and can't get any more. So we'll stick that recipe up as well. part of the Join In From Home challenge, we said Monday is usually a dance club day, or at least the fourth Monday of the month. The dance club are a really interesting group because they decided right at the beginning they would only make dance for the screen. So essentially they wouldn't perform live because that would be really difficult to try and get everybody together to deal with anxiety, to deal with broken wheelchairs, lack of support, fluctuating conditions, all those different things. So they decided they'd produce films of them dancing and base that on improvisation because, again, it can be very difficult to rehearse over and over again if you've got some kind of fluctuating condition. It's really nice just to improvise and get some beautiful movement and video it. And of course, you can build up a whole dance with just doing one movement at a time. I remember, oh goodness, 18 years ago making a piece called Fight, and somebody saying to me, "Oh, I didn't realize you were so mobile." And I thought, well, I wasn't really, because it was all filmed one piece at a time and I hadn't intended it to have that effect, but it actually did. Anyway, then the guys moved on and decided that they would only dance with their faces hidden. They didn't all feel confident showing their faces, particularly as it happened, people on medication that had made them put on weight, which unfortunately can be a side effect of certain medications. So they decided they'd dance in masks. So our Join In From Home challenge is to make your own mask and then make your own dance and film yourself in it. Julie, we were talking more on Friday about filming, and I wondered if you'd got any more tips for us in terms of things like dancing.
Oh, I think try and prop your phone up if you're using a phone. Ideally, if you've got access to a tripod, put it on a tripod, or use a camera with a tripod. And there's different ways of doing it. You could actually take lots of photographs of yourself in slightly different moves so that you actually create an old-fashioned sort of like a flip book, which can be quite interesting in itself. And they were actually around before cinematography, so before films were made. People used to take still pictures of something that's moving, or creating something using drawing, and then just flipping it. Like children have these little flip books, and it works very well.
Yeah, I think that's a lovely idea. And another thing, of course, is the filters. We talked a bit on Friday about smartphones and photography, and just the fact that some of these really cheap filters that just come with the packages can make things look really interesting. So you might think, oh, I really don't like the background in my kitchen. But once you've turned it black and white, added a bit of purple, it just looks completely different. We have got on the website, which again is together2012.org.uk, and everything is linked from the top link in the menu that just says Join In From Home. Sorry, I'm having a minor, couldn't remember exactly what I was about to say there in terms of the thing. But now I have. The very first film we did with the dance club was just an experiment where they spent 20 minutes making masks out of paper plates and whatever we had around us. And then they wrapped themselves in our coloured backdrops for our stages and just moved in front of the camera. And we have a link to that just to show how simple something like this can be. But in fact, if you look at that, it looks as if it was filmed in a studio. Everything behind them is black. You can't see any background. Whereas, in fact, it was at the Vicarage Lane Community Centre in Stratford against some pretty grubby, bright blue curtains. And what happened was that simply by pushing the exposure, it was able to turn it into something that looked just like a kind of, it's been filmed in a dark studio, everything had been blacked out, there was proper lighting. So it's really, I think, again, we were talking about this on Friday, that if an image is a good image, it doesn't have to be in sharp focus, it doesn't have to have wonderful focal length. It's amazing what you can do with it as long as the image itself is strong.
And actually, just to add to that, that's a link you sent me earlier. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at it yourself, but an organisation called ARC Media are currently promoting a free online course to help learn to film with your smartphone. and it says it's 45 minutes. And it just, well, I mean, I guess if you know, if you're not sure where to start, then why not? You know, they are a professional video company, so I would imagine it's pretty good. I mean, we could all perhaps have a look at it and talk a bit more about it on Wednesday.
Absolutely. And you'll see on our website, you can watch this stream directly on YouTube, where you can also use live chat. But and in fact, I've just seen somebody come up now who I think might be available to chat. I'll have to investigate that. But on the action, if you're looking at it through the web page, then there's also underneath the Together TV gallery, and we put up each time the sort of short videos. So we'll put up these videos from Stella and from Ellen, and we can also put the link up so that you can actually see the link to that ARC Media course. And we've put up a sort of short film where you've been talking about some of the smartphone techniques as well. So that should be quite helpful. Thanks, Robin, for that. Did you have anything to add, Josh?
No, the course looks really good.
And did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was kind of a fairly similar weekend, really, in terms of, you know, the sessions and stuff we were doing together. We watched a couple of films, and then I was just kind of cracking on with some work that I've been putting off probably longer than I should have done. That kind of needs to get done. So I was kind of sitting down Sunday afternoon and trying to kind of get some of that stuff sorted and submitted. So.
Yeah, because I don't think we've explained today. We're all in long-term isolation now. Wheelchairs make up our virtual sofa, and Julie has moved into my studio for the duration, and Josh has moved home from his PhD studies. So on the one hand, we're all very lucky because we're not isolated on our own, but on the other hand, sometimes it can get a little bit too much because you've only got the people you're living with to take it out on. I mean, we're definitely having, I think, fallen into a pattern of Saturday night film nights, haven't we? And we're really enjoying that. We're fortunate because we've got a subscription to Netflix. So
we, as I was saying, just before we went to the Stera film, we watched a film called Detective Pikachu, which took Josh back 15 years to the days of Pokemon when they came out originally, and Pokemon cards, and then more recently there was the Pokemon games on the your phone where you could go around and collect things, or take your daughter around to innumerable places and collect things. Let's put it that way.
I was too lazy to Pokemon Go.
Yeah, but then the film, it was lovely actually, because Josh went into reverie. Emily went and got her cuddly Pikachu, and Evie, yeah. I mean, if you don't know who Evie is, where have you been? It's just something falling off the drum
I was
kit.
going to say that's Evie going, Julie, you know who I am? And I think, it's like when I went into, I mean, this is talking about a niece or a nephew who's in their 20s now, but in fact, I have a feeling it's my niece who is now at the age of 24, a cardiac radiographer on the NHS frontline in Portsmouth. But I said, oh, that's a nice birthday cake. And they said, well, it's a Teletubby. And I said, what's a Teletubby? And was surrounded by people looking absolutely knackered, going, you don't know what a Teletubby is. Be gone. You don't belong here. But I did actually find out what Teletubbies were.
And I mean, a true story. The woman who wrote the Teletubby stuff, and In a Night Garden and all the stuff, and who used to do Rosie and Jim, she gave Andrew Sterling, is it, who's the big wig in disability film and stuff? Andrew, I'm saying Sterling because he's a Scotsman, and it might just be he was from Sterling. And he was like one of the first like full-time wheelchair using presenters on children's TV. And it came from there. They also make Balamory as well, I think. But anyway, so Anne being Ragdoll Productions was what they were called, but actually that kind of the BBC and kind of really did really well in kind of using them as an organisation who would bring inclusive TV to children.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this brings us on. I'm a little bit wary, given the internet signal still doesn't look terribly strong and there's nothing we can do about that. But one of the things that's a continual theme is using art and to keep fit, to keep happy. And we've talked over the last couple of weeks, and I believe this is what we did last Monday, is having a bit of a dance. It can just be moving around in your chair. It can be having a full-on dance. You won't see us because we'll be playing something else. So like I say, I'm just going to try this video and it may not work. It's one of a series of excerpts that I'm currently editing from a 2014 performance at Stratford Old Town Hall for the Together Disability History Month Festival with Crip Hop Nation. And we heard last week, sadly, of the passing of Rob Denoise Temple, who's on keyboards at the back. When you were talking to us about songwriting, which I think was on Friday, Robin, you were saying you like stories, you like songs that tell a story.
Yeah.
And some songs only have one or two lines. This is, as maybe is quite often with hip hop, one of those songs that has one or two lines. But the lines are, I don't judge you, you don't judge me, which I thought for a Monday was also a very happy little tune. But like I say, whether I can find it and get it to play is a whole other issue. And in fact, right now I can't. So let's just keep on talking for a minute, and I'm going to have another go at that because it is a fabulous song and a fabulous
I was going to say, I mean, Crip Hop was such interesting. I mean, obviously, Ju and I worked together on the festival back in 2014, which kind of all stemmed from an idea I'd had about 18 months before. But then, and so we got to work in the same artists because the whole purpose of the festival was to create a 6-city tour based around the 6 areas of least engagement in arts, as it was at the time. I mean, it's probably not massively different now. And Crip Hop were one of the main artists who were commissioned to take part in the festival. And they're such an interesting group because there was a core of 7 or 8 or even 9, but they came from as disparate places as
Germany, Africa, North America.
Yeah, well, New York and West Coast as well, and Uganda. And the German rappers came from different parts of Germany, but kind of it seems that industrial rap's quite a big thing in Germany, and there were kind of 2 main rappers from the German. There's a guy called Binky, and then Psycho, and they sorry, my computer's just putting things in front of me for some reason. And they rapped in, as I say, in German and in English, but incredibly memorable and really, really powerful. And I think that, I mean, sometimes, as you said, if the motif is there, like a 2-line chant almost, it's a repeated is really, really effective. And I got some absolutely fantastic pictures of Crip Hop playing, if ever we need any as well.
Yeah, maybe we could put some up. I mean, I think this is just loaded, so we're going to put it on, and if it plays, we're going to leave it on for a couple of minutes to have a bit of a dance. I think another one that I'm editing at the moment is called Who Says I Can't, which is another kind of a great little mantra. But this is I Don't Judge You.
I don't judge you, you don't judge me. Don't judge if you want it, family. I don't judge you, you don't judge me. Lady, every cybernetic Mickey Crystal shit. I don't judge you,
there we have a Crip Hop at the Old Town Hall.
Yeah,
For
amazing.
who couldn't see that, there was a lot of baseball caps. There was quite a big crew, including one person walking on their stumps and one person in a power wheelchair. And what I particularly loved was all of the shadows it was making on the Old Town Hall, which is a very kind of, I don't know, elaborate Victorian structure. It's a space we use quite a lot because it's a downstairs space and therefore much easier to get to than the main function hall. It's yeah, it's rather glorious, and I just loved all these jumping shadows kind of flashing up against the walls. And indeed, the sign language interpreters dancing as well, because they didn't have to interpret that for the whole of the dance.
I remember the sign language interpreters having an absolute joyous time trying to interpret the Crip Hop songs.
Yes, I remember us getting kind of desperate requests through to produce the lyrics, which I think when you've got a group that's coming together from at least 3 continents and then rehearsing is asking perhaps a little bit much. I'm not entirely sure I'll put the German track up when I do have the edited highlights. But it was really good to look at that and look at the festival, because another thing within our website under the link that says 2020 program is a call for submissions for anybody who'd like to be part of this year's festival. Usually I program the festival, I don't know, in a quite a kind of lot of different ways. People approach me and tell me they've got work coming out. I hear about other people's work coming out. I have ideas that I commission. And what we realized back in February, of course, was that actually this year's festival was going to have to be entirely virtual. And if we were going to make it entirely virtual, because we do always have some components that are online to extend access, that I would just open up the process to absolutely anybody who wants to be part of it. So in this first round of commissions, there's £8,000. You can apply for between 100 and 1,000. If your project is going to cost more than £1,000, then we can support you to go to your local arts funding body and make an application for more money. We cover every art form, including some that I hadn't actually heard of before I started this work. So any idea, so long as it's, if you like, interactive. So if you want to propose a virtual exhibition, think about how you're going to do a virtual artist talk. You're going to do that on Zoom. What kind of information would you usually put up as well at the exhibition? How can you produce that online? Are there extra things? You know, can you actually interact with your audience more because you can offer email, text, Skype, Zoom, all sorts of other things? Do you have any ideas, absolutely critically, for people who've got very little digital access? You know, how can we still offer them a virtual festival? So there's what I hope is quite a simple application process. There's a series of questions. You go to the 2020 program and then look on the commissions link. You just send it back by email. I'm happy to correspond about it and to sort of say, yes, I think you're going in the right direction, or maybe you could do this, or maybe you could do that, or this might be a problem. So, for example, everything we do is free at the point of use. So we're not looking for things that are tied to charitable donations. It has to be something that people can access without feeling that they ought to be giving money or feeling guilty that they can't. But so long as it's free, suitable for an inclusive, family-friendly audience, we would love to hear from it. The reason I'm pushing this now is the deadline for this round of commissions is Thursday at 5 o'clock. So you've got the rest of this week to get your ideas in. I've had some fabulous ideas in already. I've really enjoyed talking to artists over email that I've never come across before. It's been absolutely fascinating. We don't just commission people from the UK, as you can tell from the Crip Hop. So if you're watching this show or you see the website somewhere else, you are very, very welcome to apply. So that is our festival. Some years Robin also comes down and does some technical stuff for us, but
Indeed.
I wish you could come down here across the line and help me with some of my studio setup, but sadly it is not to be. But anyway, back to you, Birmingham.
Yeah, hi. I mean, I'm hoping actually that in the near future, we'll be able to run the show from this end as well, or have the skill, you know, have some practice so that to give you guys a break, you know, so you can go on a virtual holiday somewhere.
Yes, I wonder where that's going to be.
Trust Josh and I at the reins of a production suite. But that would be kind of good. I mean, that'd be good to so
Yeah,
that
I think it's maybe worth, you know, just telling people a bit about what we're using. We're using a platform that you have to pay for, but there is a free option if you don't live stream very often. I'm consoled by the fact that actually, if you look at the BBC and ITV home streaming at the moment, they're actually using a very similar interface. It's just they're probably more able to deal with the problems behind it. It's still in development, I think, like everything is, because how things operated on the internet a few months ago is not how they're operating with a lot more traffic. So that's why we struggle a little bit, if only it was as easy to use as it's supposed to be. But they do have a very responsive team coming back. If you're very technically minded, every kind of live stream and these interfaces is based on something called the Open Broadcast System, OBS. And I think it's probably true that if we'd intended to do this as a project, we probably would have designed our own OBS interface. But we've chosen BeLive partly because it is a simple interface and it should be possible to move around and control it from different places as long as you've got a powerful enough computer. And Julie, you always had a vision of us running an online broadcasting project as a training project. So even after isolation finishes.
Absolutely. It's something that I started to be interested in many, many years ago, actually, when we were just kicking off Together 2012. I remember having a conversation with somebody at a conference who was, he did a lot of technical work for festivals, etc., but he ran his own radio station in Birmingham, actually. And it struck me how wonderful it would be to have a radio station that we ran and we controlled. And, you know, we have obviously visiting DJs. I trust that I would be one of them, you know, who could play our own genre of music. But I think most importantly, aside from the sort of like the personal satisfaction side of it, I really wanted to have an opportunity for disabled people of all ages, but obviously particularly younger people, but I have to say, not excluding older as well, to learn the technical skills that's necessary to run such a project long term. I think one of the problems I have with the disability arts movement as a whole is I just do not see production opportunities for people to learn production skills. I think lighting would be ideal to learn. You know, it can all be done by a computer. I think sound technology is absolutely critical, but there's a whole range of, you know, of roles within production that I just do not see the training opportunities for.
I think also that
Right.
I mean, whilst it is important for young people to access these things, certainly for most disabled people, certainly people of my age, you know, and probably 15 years younger as well, is that the opportunities were not there at all. So, you know, so that actually, if it's not something, oh well, I'm 50 odd, so I can, you know, you must know that, you must have done that at some point or whatever. As a disabled person growing up in the times that I grew up, you weren't expected to work, you weren't expected to do very well, you weren't expected to be productive, you were expected to, you know, receive and be, you know, in benefit of something, and so kind of those opportunities weren't, you know, were so few and far between. Um,
think there's a real theme came up. I was part of a Zoom online conference this morning with local voluntary sector leaders, and it's actually been, I think, very positive to see how well the council here is working together with the voluntary sector, and also how much they're recognising the importance of well-being and creativity. But something that we find with the participants in our year-round clubs program was just echoed by everybody, which is digital exclusion. You know, people don't have internet access in this time when it's so critical. We've tried to make as many of the join in from home activities as possible things that you can tell other people about by phone. And if you're listening and you've got a bit of spare time, which most of us have a little bit more time than we used to, you know, think about phoning a friend, reaching out, but also talking through some of these activity ideas with them. You know, ask if they need you to look something up on the internet for them if you're lucky enough to have broadband. You know, don't run your credit out if you've got to go out on pay as you go, but if you do have a steady internet connection at home, think about anybody you know who doesn't. I think that really could make a big difference at the moment. I think with the production stuff, that is another key thing with Arts Council policy over the last 10 years has been very focused around artists because, of course, that's what the Arts Council leads on. But you're absolutely right. If you want to train as a stage manager, a production manager, a lighting designer, a director, those opportunities have been virtually non-existent. And I think when, you know, people are now sort of saying, well, we're not going to go back to the old normal, there will be a new normal. And that new normal might take a very long time to come along for people in isolation. But when we get to that new normal, I think those opportunities have really got to open up. Because as Julie was saying, you know, you can do all these things with a computer. It's amazing. I've been privileged to be in some big TV studios, and you have all the cameras and things are basically robotic. So if you control the you know, you might control the computer with your nose, but hey, you can make all of the lights do exactly what you want. You can bring in everything you want when you want. I don't know why it's so difficult to make kind of very simple YouTube systems work properly in the circumstances, but I guess they're not doing it live, which is a challenge in itself. What I'm hoping we can do with the Together TV stream is two things. One is bring in more programming. And if you're out there and you've got ideas for programs, we're showing Together Unlocked 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 to 4 p.m. But we've certainly can be streaming at other times. And of course, I think when we come to have the festival, this will be the main kind of thing by which we're running the festival and indeed running our film festival, which we'll tell you a bit more about on Wednesday. But I would love in a couple of years' time to think of this as a ongoing training project in real life as well as online that could, as you say, target young disabled people in particular, but also people of all ages who want to get more involved in live streaming and broadcasting. Did you want to add anything to that, Julie? No, I think that's right.
Did you have something, Josh?
Yeah, I think kind of one of the good things now with, obviously you have to kind of have access to the internet, but YouTube has a huge library of kind of tutorials and how-to videos and guide videos on anything and everything, really, from camera lighting to surgical stitches. But one of the, and it's a channel that I watch on YouTube called Corridor Crew, which is the kind of behind the scenes and production office of the film company Corridor. And they do videos, sometimes discussing their kind of sound design for videos and why they've done that or how they've got certain things. But they also have a large series of videos now. I think they're up to about 24 videos. That is kind of as visual effects artists discussing kind of good and bad visual effects in film and TV. And it's kind of really interesting to watch because I like kind of behind the scenes stuff. But if you are interested in things like lighting and set design and camera movements and things like that, they're not necessarily tutorials, but it's really interesting to kind of listen to 3 professional artists discuss why the shots work or what they've done differently to make it better and tweak it, and things like lighting and contrasts, and why things don't look real sometimes. And I can't do visual effects to save my life, but I feel like I've learned a lot by just kind of watching them talk about it and picking up those little kind of tips and hints and things. So if that is something you are kind of looking to do practically, I think it'd be a good thing to kind of just kind of look at and get some ideas from.
I think that sounds excellent, and it brings me nicely round to another bit of our Join In From Home program, which is our Youth Together program. That's led by an artist called Hazel Brill. I know you've been contacted by Hazel and you're helping her to set these things up, but one of the 2 groups that she's set up on Facebook is for young and emerging disabled filmmakers. So that's exactly the kind of thing to post to that group. If you're interested out there in joining any of the Youth Together specific activities, there's a Facebook group for any disabled creative under the age and up to the age of 25. There's the one we've just talked about, which is for young and emerging disabled filmmakers. And there's also a new Instagram group. Hazel just started with us in January, so it's been a bit of a baptism of fire to suddenly change everything that she was doing to make it online. So if you're able to get involved with those groups, we would really welcome it. And that would be where they would find that information, isn't it, Josh, if you're able to post it to that Facebook page?
Yes. Yeah.
Lovely. So in fact, we're coming up to 4 o'clock already. Julie,
I've got a poem for sorry, for Robin. My mind suddenly went blank. I've got a poem for you, Robin. It's the chorus of a song by Flanders and Swan, and it was inspired. The thought it was inspired by your statement about your aspiration to be a guru. So I'm just going to read you the chorus very quickly. I'm a GNU, another GNU. I wish I could gnash my teeth at you. I'm a GNU. How do you do? You really ought to know who's who. I'm a GNU, spelt GNU. Call me Bison or a copy and I'll sue. Nor am I in the least like that dreadful hearty beast. Oh, GNU, GNU, GNU. I'm a GNU. GNU, GNU, GNU. I'm a GNU. GNU, GNU, GNU. I'm a GNU. And that's just for you.
thank you, Julie. We always end with a poem on a Monday, and that's an interesting one, I must say. So we'll come over to you in a minute to give you the final word. We usually run a pop-up poetry workshop on a Wednesday morning, and indeed, I'm very hopeful that I'm going to be able to tell you on Wednesday afternoon that it's now going to be available as a phone group. But we always try on, when we get to the club, we have a sort of cup of tea and we have a random kind of shuffle through the poetry shelves, and we all pull out poems to read to each other. And it's really nice to sort of hear somebody just pull out a random poem and read it again, because that's just what we're used to doing. So on Wednesday, we'll also be looking again at virtual sport, gaming. We will have our infamous teddy bear Paralympics for the right of that week's teddy bear to wear a gold medal.
I think there needs to be some drug testing going on though. 3 weeks in a row.
I think it's only 2 weeks in a row, but who's counting? But at the moment, yes, London 2012 does appear to be slightly ahead of Birmingham 2022, but we could have a very long time to go. So if you do want to keep score, because I know when we talked about games people play, the Surgeoners came over as the most competitive family we'd ever come across.
Yeah, it's 3-1. Don't worry, we know the score.
Well, you just keep keeping it, and let me know at the end of the year how we're getting on.
And we'll fight anyone that thinks they're more competitive than us.
So this is goodbye from East London.
It's goodbye from Birmingham.
Yeah, and I actually just one request. Jude's just mentioned that normally the poetry group revolves around a cup of tea and something to eat. I think the challenge for Wednesday is to bring something to eat and drink to the meeting, to the production studio, away from the electronics, obviously. And yeah, we can kick back and have a drink while we share some poetry.
That sounds lovely. So we'll see you and hopefully everybody else on Wednesday at 3 o'clock. And otherwise, this is always available as a recording later.